Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. I know it said on the flyer, or the flyer we shared, the scoreboard show, but then that'll be more for Sundays. But we're just going to call them the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. We're going to do it every Sunday and Tuesday around 7:30 p.m. And we're going to touch all things that are happening in the Tri-City area, touch on all high school football that's going on around Alabama, Georgia. And then we're going to get into some college as well. We got some hot topics we're going to get into. And then the NFL started this past weekend. The Falcons start 1-0. Richard's 49ers, I just demolished and took the soul right out of Pittsburgh. And our guy, Toygar, one of our producers, huge Steelers fan, loves the Pittsburgh teams. And they did not look good this past weekend. But, Richard, how you doing? And how's your weekend going?
I'm
Week.
doing well, Thrift. It's great so far. We had the Glenwood Coaches Show yesterday. I mean, we have a busy week once again, and I'm just excited that I get to come on and talk sports. And this is kind of a special treat. I'm going to let you introduce our guest, but I'm kind of just excited about this just because it feels like it's a crossover show from what you got going on.
And yes, when we have our guest ready, we'll be able to rock and roll. And we have a great show that will be lined up for you today. Can't wait to have him on to talk all things college, high school, his career. I did a sit down interview, but again, everything got deleted with our Facebook page. But it's okay because we're going to do it all over again right here on our preview show. We got a lot of stuff that we're going to be getting into today. Looking forward to this week and where we're going to be as we made the announcement, Richard, that we are going to be at Glenwood as they take on the Lee Scott Warriors, number one versus number two. We're going to have high school game day there. Our live stream of the game's going to be there. And then, of course, we got Spencer Kendrick, but the premier game of the week. You got two of them. You got Central Opelika. That's a pretty big game. But this Glenwood Lee Scott, it's hard to match up, except for that we have a team in Pacelli taking on Stratford on the Georgia side. And our next guest will be calling that game as well. Richard, what are you looking forward to this week when it comes to Georgia Alabama Sports Live?
Well, first of all, I'm looking forward to the games that we're calling Kendrick and Spencer on Thursday, and then Lee Scott and Glenwood on Friday. You got two powerhouses. It's a rematch of the AISA championship, and we're going to be scoreboard watching. You have Hardaway taking on Harris County, Shaw is taking on Columbus. You have Enterprise that's taking on Smith Station, Russell County taking on Carver, Montgomery, and you have Brookstone on the road taking on Mount Zion. I mean, there's so much stuff in Calvary's back at home. I forgot about them, but there's a lot of high school football going on. And then in the next couple of weeks, we'll start getting into region play, and we will start getting clarity to see if these teams in the Chattahoochee Valley can make a deep run come playoff time.
Yeah, and that's what we're almost halfway through the season, Richard. Can you believe that?
I can't believe it.
That we are almost halfway through the season, and we got, like I said, a lot that we're going to be talking about today. And we're excited to be previewing some of the big time games that are happening around the area. And our next guest will help preview some of those games, Richard. Let's do a quick preview of Glenwood Lee Scott while we wait on our guests. Richard, this big time rivalry game last year was the state championship game as Glenwood lost to Lee Scott both in the regular season and in the state championship. Lee Scott, that was one of probably their best teams in program history, winning a state championship. This year, they did lose a lot of players from that team, but they're still Lee Scott. They're one of the top dogs in the AISA, but no one's making more noise than those Glenwood Gators.
Glenwood is firing on all cylinders. They get an impressive road win over Bessemer Academy. Dallas Crow with 4 touchdowns, and he's starting to become one of the top quarterbacks in the Chattahoochee Valley. You could put him in the same category with Andrew Alford at Central, or Caden Clay at Northside, or Gary Gaither at Spencer. Dallas Crow is really making a name for himself, and it really helps when you're a second-year starter in Coach Nelson's system. They got a very talented sophomore running back, Carter Judah. Camden White also gets some of the load, and their defense is very underrated. And so I cannot wait for this matchup. Glenwood Lee Scott Academy. It should be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to talk about those games that are happening. Um, all across the Tri-City area, but specifically Glenwood Lee Scott. I mean, these two schools, I went to Glenwood. I know about this rivalry. I know about how much the schools hate each other, Richard, and it's not going to surprise me at all if we see, these Glenwood Gators and these Lee Scott Warriors have some chippiness to them, Richard, and seeing if it gets kind of feisty heading into this week. And again, all games will be live on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. Dallas Crow has been one of the top guys in the area, one of the top quarterbacks. I know everybody's talking about Alford, Gary Gaither, but I like what Dallas Crow's done so far this year, and he has done a great job with this team under Coach Nelson's leadership.
I like what Dallas Crow is doing as well. I had a chance to talk to Coach Nelson at the Glenwood Gators coaches show yesterday, and he's pretty confident that Dallas Crow is the type of quarterback that can make all the throws. He also can run the ball if he needs to. But this Glenwood defense, so underrated with Lamont Burton and Samaje Williams, the senior leaders on this team. You can't forget about Griffin Montroy. In fact, somebody just shared me that video that went viral last year when they played Bessemer Academy. And Griffin Montroy is just an outstanding kicker. He could kick on Saturdays for a college team. And they just have everything running smoothly for them: offense, defense, special teams. And I know that we cannot make a prediction on Glenwood Lee Scott, but
Don't
I
do it,
do
Rich.
know, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm
For
just going
one,
to
your
give you the keys
predictions
to the
have not
game.
been
No, I
your
know. We can.
come on. We we saw what happened last time you made a prediction when it comes to those Phoenix City schools.
You're right. But the keys to the game is if Glenwood does not make any mistakes, if Dallas Crow takes the ball and just is smooth on the offense. And, we know that Lee Scott has lost a lot of firepower. They're still a dominant team. They put up 51 points against Morgan Academy their last game. They are capable of putting up that many points. I could possibly see a shootout, but the Glenwood defense has got to find a way to force a turnover. But it should be a fun, exciting game at the Swamp this Friday night.
And I'm excited to be there again. High school game day, Richard, will start at about 6:30. I would say we'll have Dusty Purdue. Hopefully, our guest picker is going to be Rex Castillo. So that's going to be a lot of fun seeing him, Richard, and seeing what happens as last time we got him to pick games, we had some technical difficulties, but I'm expecting that to happen again this time. And looking forward to having him on as always, and looking forward to doing game day again. You got Coach Dusty Purdue, who he keeps up with his record. He says he's excited, and from what I've been told, they're going to go all out just like Harris County did. So it's gonna be a lot of fun, no doubt about it, Richard.
Yes, we were there for our first high school game day, and we're going back to the Swamp. It's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have a different backdrop, and hopefully, it'll just be more involvement from the student body. And that's really what we want. When we go to these campuses, we want to have the cheerleaders and the band and the student section coming out behind us and supporting their team. And I cannot wait. And I know that Coach Purdue is excited about it as well.
Yeah.
I know that I texted you the projected games that we are going to make picks for, and that's just based off of all the teams in the Tri-City area that are at home. I know Carver is on the road taking on Brookwood, a 7A school,
Right.
but we just couldn't get all the games in there because you look at Smith Station's at home, Russell County's at home, Central's at home, and Glenwood's at home. I don't know if that's ever happened, Thrift, that all the teams in the Phoenix City Smith Station area are at home.
Right. And it's pretty funny, Richard. I mean, not funny, but we had a tough time picking what game we wanted to go to. I mean, I selfish reasons, I definitely wanted to call at least Scott Glenwood game, but I mean, you see how many we had to pick from. And Richard, do you have those graphics up? If you do, I'd like you to go ahead and put up maybe that Pacelli game, as they'll be one of the first ones that we can go ahead and start talking about. Pacelli taking on Stratford. This was a game last year that they played each other in the state championship. They did not play in the regular season, I don't think, Richard. They didn't face each other until the state championship. And Pacelli, this team Richard, they get dominated by Glenwood 38-12.
Right.
And people are saying that Pacelli's going to have a down year. They're obviously not that good. Well, you're seeing now that, for one, it takes time with a young team to find its groove. Christian Brown has come on strong. He's actually won Player of the Week this past week for either WRBL or WTVM. He's been great. GIAA's had him as Player of the Week as well. He's only a junior this year and getting his first start. He's starting to find himself within that Coach Dwight Jones offense. And I like this Pacelli team a lot. They take on Stratford. What do you know about Stratford this year, Richard?
Well, Thrift, I know they have an incredible campus. You remember we went to Stratford to call the Final Four game between Brookstone and Pacelli, or the Elite Eight game. We went to Stratford. They're a team in the GIAA that is just one of those teams that is one of the favorites, along with Pacelli. But Stratford, out of Macon, like we mentioned, beautiful campus. They have all the facilities, and fun fact. This is Coach Purdue told me that former Atlanta Braves closer John Rocker went to First Presbyterian Day. I did not know that, but Coach Purdue told us that. That's another GIAA school in Macon. And so I'm kind of interested to see if there's any notable alumni that went to Stratford Academy.
So right now, Stratford is undefeated. They have beat Westfield at home. Westfield's a school out of Perry that's in the GIAA, same region as Pacelli. They beat Riverside Military 57-14, blew out Westfield, and then beat Brookwood at home 45-26. So they're undefeated. Pacelli's 3-1. And Stratford, they're trying to get revenge off of what happened last year. They were so close to a state championship. They went 9-4 last year. They lost. They lost to John Millage. And remember, I called John Millage. That's the premier team in the GIAA. There is nobody in the GIAA that can even come close to hanging with them. I like this John Millage team a lot, and they're in a lower classification than Pacelli is. They also lost to Tatnall Square last year, and they did lose to Pacelli at home 21-7, and then played them again in the state championship. So I stand corrected. They played them again in the state championship and lost 10-0. But this Stratford team, Richard, I like what I see from them. I think they're going to be hard to put away if you're Pacelli. Obviously, going 0-2 last year against them, that's motivation to want to beat Pacelli this year. Not only the fact that they're trying to cement themselves as the number 1 4A GIAA team in the state. I think they're ranked in the top 2 right now, and it's a rivalry game. They also play in the state championship in basketball. So these two schools do not like each other. They're the two premier schools in 4A of the GIAA in all sports. And Stratford is, like you said, beautiful campus in Macon. And they're going to come to Pacelli looking for some blood from what happened last year. It's going to be a great matchup. And DJ Jones and Dave Platt will be on the call there for Vikings TV. We'll be keeping up with that game and excited to be able to, see what the score is and give updates. I know DJ and them will do the same thing while we are calling Glenwood and Lee Scott. Any final thoughts, Richard, on some of your key moments for that game?
Well, I think that Pacelli, they're riding a 3-game win streak. Like you said, Brown, the quarterback, AZ Justy, just a great two-way player. James Corvette, great running back. Pacelli is going to continue to play hard. I know we're going to have this game as our picks for high school game day. I just think that maybe Stratford Academy, they're trying to avenge that loss in the state championship last year, losing 10-0. This might be Pacelli's toughest task since Glenwood.
Yeah. It might be. It is.
No, it is. Yeah, you know what I meant.
The toughest task since then. I'm looking at the schedule right now. Tatnall Square, they lost Tatnall Square in the regular season, then beat them in the postseason. Tatnall Square's lost to Schley County. We know how good Schley County is. That's one of the top schools in public school, Richard. They lost to them by 7 points last year. That was last year's team. Excuse me. I need to look up this year's team. But they losing to Schley County last year. They did lose to them this year, 61-20. Then lost to Pacelli and just lost to Bowden. But Bowden, Schley County, those are public schools that they have lost to. All right, moving on from that, we'll talk about Shaw and Columbus, Richard. Shaw coming off a loss last week. You know, you don't have your starting quarterback. You don't know how long he's out. Northside is an elite team. They stay close and still competed the entire game. Obviously, Northside went on to dominate and win 33-7. We all saw them lose against Harris County on the road, 28-7. So, this game for me, whoever wins, I think Richard is going to make the playoffs in their region. I like Shaw, but I don't ever count out Coach Phil Marino's team. Obviously, their only win is against Jordan. Shaw's only win is against Kendrick. Two less, a little inferior teams compared to Shaw and Columbus and Jordan and Kendrick, and they're also in a classification lower. But I'm leaning towards Shaw, and I think Coach Gardner is going to find a way even without his starting quarterback, but I would not be surprised if Columbus does win. Like I said, winner of this is going to have the upper hand to making the playoffs.
Columbus did beat Shaw last season. I know that Coach Phil Marino is going to have Columbus ready. Robert Hartford, he is a seasoned quarterback. We don't know the status of Nicholas Bates. If he can't go, Arvin Grant is going to be the quarterback for Shaw. And I really like the defense of Shaw. I think that Sidney Atkins can just interchannel his Jesse Bates once again like he did in the Northside game. It should be a fun game. It'll be the only game, I believe, at Kinnett Stadium. Actually, Jordan is playing Southwest down at Otis Spencer. So you got 2 games Friday night. Kinnett Stadium, it's a home game for Columbus. Shaw has not played an official home game yet. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
But, I'm looking forward to that game, too. We'll try to get scores for that update as well while we're on the broadcast.
Yep. But without further ado, I think it's time, Richard.
It's time.
We bring our next guest on, someone that means a lot to me, my mentor, my partner in crime. It's none other than DJ Jones of Sportsvisions. DJ, how are you?
Good evening, fellas. How you guys doing?
Excellent, man. Thank you again for wanting to come on. And DJ, we're going to talk a lot about your career. We'll go into a little bit of high school football around this area and then touch on some college and some pro before you get out of here. But first things first, I did want you to make the announcement. You talked about it yesterday on the Sportsvisions radio show. If you missed that, you can see it on our Facebook page, Sportsvision.tv/radio/magazine, and the Sportsvisions radio app. You're going to be calling another game this Friday, and I know you're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I got a call from Chelly's athletic director, Corey Black, and he asked me to call the game with Dave, join Dave in the booth on Friday over on the campus, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a rematch of last year's state championship game. So I tell you, look, it's always a joy to keep the rust off and go in the box, go in the booth and call some games.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a good game too, man. We talked about Glenwood taking on Lee Scott, Stratford taking on Pacelli. That was last year's state championship. It's a rivalry. Stratford's coming in hot. They're undefeated. They lost twice last year to Pacelli. They want to get revenge. So I know that's going to be a big-time game. We're looking forward to seeing you and Dave Platt on the call, Vikings TV. But DJ, we had you on. I did my sit-down interview, but our Facebook page got deleted. So for all those new followers and stuff that we have, let's start going in a little bit into your career. Obviously, you played in the NFL. You played at Georgia, won a national championship, played in the NFL, played in the Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. And then you had a great, long-standing professional career with many different companies that ultimately turned into Sportsvision. So let's go into what was Sportsvisions. How did you come up with the idea? And talk about your partner, Dale Williams, how 20 years later, you're still going strong, man.
I tell you, it was a blessing, obviously, to have not only an opportunity to go into something that I had been dreaming about and wishing upon since I was a little shorty, man. I mean, a lot of people say, did you ever know what you wanted to do? Absolutely. When I was a young player, young kid, Dale and I were actually neighbors, and he was like a brother to me in Buena Vista Estates. Our front doors probably weren't even 10 yards apart up on the hill there at Buena Vista Estates. But, it was just great to be able to have an older guy in my life, that I kind of credit all of my development athletically to Dale because I played up. He was 3 years older than I was. And if you could imagine being 8, 9 years old and having an opportunity to go and compete with 11, 12-year-olds, it'd be against the law now probably. But My dad trusted Dale because, like I said, we were brothers, we were neighbors, and again, I wanted to play. I wasn't afraid. I wanted to do whatever he was doing: football, baseball, basketball. And by the way, he was an incredible athlete. He hadn't got nearly the credit of being an athlete, the athlete that he had. Everybody knows he played at Georgia, but he was an outstanding Pop Warner quarterback. And of course I followed him to Edgewood, and that's where I ended up playing quarterback. But that was great just to be able to have an opportunity to be with a great friend. And we started it, almost 20 years ago in 2004. He called me up because I was already into the media here, doing radio and television with WRBL and WDAK. And he said, one day he said, man, you just don't get enough time. I mean, you come on 3, 4, 5 minutes, depending on the news load, and you don't get enough time. So he was tasked to find out how to put together a church television show. And he went out and called on a few stations and networks, and that gave him the opportunity to pursue, how to buy time, of course, how to, get sponsors. And he basically brought all that back to me and shared it and said, hey, look, dude, if I start put together this television show, would you join me? And I said, by all means. And at that time, timing was right. By that time, I had left WRBL and was with the War Dogs, and
right.
Well, War Dogs' time was over, and Dale and I just took the plunge in 2004 and never looked back.
Yeah, and you're right. And never look back, indeed. And Richard, you got to be a part of the Sportsvisions Awards luncheon last year for the first time. And for those that don't know, DJ, you talked about this in your career. People, especially around different areas in the state, luncheons, award shows, giving back to the high school athletics, that's something that happens all the time. But it wasn't happening for a 20, 30-year period, DJ, here in Columbus. And then y'all decided about 15 years ago that, you know what? We should have a football awards luncheon, giving back, showing these kids, hey, at the end of the year, you're going to get an award and you're going to get congratulated for all the hard work you had.
Absolutely. Dale and I growing up here, and of course, playing, like I mentioned before, playing at Edgewood, playing at Sally Little League, playing at the YMCA League. It was just it was a great opportunity for us to do what we enjoy. And of course, we ended up being pretty good at it. But more importantly, even after a successful season, just to have an awards luncheon where you sit down, you get to dress up in your Sunday best, your parents come with you, and you have this, we at that time, we would go to a local restaurant, whether it was Ponderosa or Pritchard's Kitchenette. Of course, those old schoolers know that old catfish plate on Buena Vista Road. But, again, the bottom line, it wasn't where it was. It was just the fact that we were being acknowledged as being elite, whether we won a championship, whether we had individual accolades. It was just great to be able to get a trophy. And as you can see on my wall behind me, years later, those are a combination of, the years that I played from Little League all the way up to the pros. And, it means a great deal. And even to this day, you watch the Heisman Trophy shows, or you watch some of the pro shows, the ESPYs. These are grown men. They're getting paid millions of dollars. So, it's still something to be said about being honored, being celebrated, being recognized, and with a nice ceremony. So Dale and I basically went to, after we started Sportsvisions, a few years into it, maybe 3-4 years in, we said we just got to do something, because when we were in high school and in middle school, there were just a plethora of businesses, organizations that put this thing together and put the money up to do it. And it made an impact on me and Dale. So we said we have to do the same thing. And of course, it's even if we were we are definitely giving them their credit and their due on our television show. So we wanted to make sure that we put an event together, something that made a difference and made an impact. And lo and behold, 16 years later, this is what we have. Thrift. We have an event where, one of the best coaches of today has been here twice in Kirby Smart. One of the legends, iconic, will go down in history as the best ever. Nick Saban has been here 3 times. Dabo Swinney, when he won a national championship, he has been here. Gus Malzahn, when he was over at Auburn, with their runs, he has come through. But it's just an amazing how this thing has turned out. But then they, what they always say, you just keep your head down, chop it, and digging, and good things are going to happen if you got the right heart.
And DJ, that time when you were at Georgia, I know that you mentioned that you were taking some broadcasting classes, had some opportunities, had your own radio show. That prepared you to become the broadcaster that you are today. I mean, truly, you have just the accolades being at WRBL and having Sportsvisions, just a successful sports talk radio show. But when you go back to your time at Georgia, what were some of the things you learned from the broadcasting mentors from the past that helped you be successful today?
I'm glad you asked that question, Richard, because again, that's who gets all the credit. The University of Georgia, my communication studies, WUOG 90.5 Athens, but the credit has to go to the brooms, the mops, the combs, the brushes that my mom had that I used to emulate in the mirror after watching the great announcers of my time when I was a youngster. After I watched these games, and not only did I want to play, but I also emulated the announcers. And you know what, we would go out and play in the yard after a big game, a football game, baseball game, basketball game. Then I'd come back and I'd practice in the mirror. I'd grab that mop stick or I'd grab that brush and I'd get in the mirror and I tell you what, I really worked on articulating my words, and I was really copying those guys. And so, by the time I got to Georgia, got to Athens, and had the opportunity to do the show on campus, on the campus station, I already had my own style. It was just a lot of things that I had already, just because of repetitions and just practicing on my own in the mirror as a youngster, it just became natural.
And what the crazy thing is, in full circle, guys, is I used to get up, and I say this story all the time, every morning around 2007, 2008, 2009, college game day, an avid college football fan. And before college game day would come on, you got Sportsvisions, and I would watch it every single Saturday. And I said, when I get older, that's a Columbus native. That's Columbus sports talk. We don't have to work for ESPN. You can do it right here in your hometown. And that leads me to my next question, DJ. For all the young broadcasters out there, they think to get into this business, you got to go work for ESPN or the Fox or CBS. Yeah, that's ultimately, you want to make it national, but you can be successful creating your own brand. I know a lot of people talk about Josh Pate. He started something, with that YouTube, and he's come big. But DJ, you did that way before then. I mean, Sportsvisions, you're getting credentials for Auburn, Alabama, Georgia. You're getting to go at all these different events, cover all these different games, Falcons, Hawks. That just doesn't happen. You have to be respected, and you created your own brand. You didn't say, I'm going to work for the big dog. I am going to be a big dog. So what's some of your advice for people that want to get out there but say, it's kind of hard getting that CBS job or whatever it may be?
Well, the best thing that I can, tell the young person out there, to include you two, is that, everything is not going to come and drop in your lap. You got to make things happen. If you really, really want this, you got to, you're going to go and do things. Sometimes you're not going to get paid for it. A lot of times early on in your career, you're not going to get paid for it. But having the opportunity, to do radio, television, PA announcing, anything involving, building that base for yourself, by all means, take advantage of it. Thrift right now, we have young people that come in and mirror us, and they say that they want to go into broadcasting. And you know what? We understand, but that's what your mouth can say. But are you really willing to understand how to use the board? Are you really willing to understand how to just sit on the sideline and take your chance and it's shadow? Everybody wants to jump in that big chair, but nobody wants to. Nobody wants to put the work in, and and I understand that. Everybody wants the light to be on them right now. But the fact of the matter is, you get an opportunity to intern or come and help you guys with Georgia, Alabama Sports Live at those games, and help you set up. I mean, being around it, so much of this is networking as opposed to learning. I think when people that are in the business that are successful, and if you were able to network and form get relationships with them, I think that's more important than you actually learning whether you want to be in front of the camera or behind the camera.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, DJ, and it just makes me think. One of the first things you ever told me, and I know this has happened for many people, you said you can talk a big game. A lot of people have come to me and Dale and talk big games, but then are you going to be able to walk the walk? have a good work ethic, do the little things. People think that you're just automatically going to be a superstar and a talent. It don't work like that, man. You got to work your way up the totem pole. It takes time. Sometimes it gets deflating. Sometimes you don't want to, like, God, it is taking a while, but eventually the hard work's going to pay off. And I know that's what's happened with your career. And speaking of your career, I think it's time that we start talking a little high school football. And I want to talk about your Carver Tigers first off, and then we'll talk about some of the other games going on around the area, including Pacelli and Glenwood. Carver, we called the game against Spencer. I don't want to really hash on what happened there, but Carver did win. They're undefeated. They get a bye, and then they take on Northeast Macon, a team they lost to last year on the road. You were at that game. Give me your feel on what happened, and do you think this Carver team, they still got a lot to play for? Season's far from over with.
Yeah, it is far from over with. And I think that was a great wake-up call for the Tigers, even though I was disappointed that, the Tigers got upset by Northeast of Macon. But, the bottom line is that, when you're successful, when you're the guy, and Carver is that team, and they've been that team for quite some time, even after, multiple coaching changes. Carver's they got the bullseye on their back. So everybody's going to throw their best punch. And when you recognize as a top dog in a region or in a division or in a conference, you're going to get everybody's best shot. Even if it's the worst team, they're going to come out throwing haymakers. And that's what happened the other day. And I think being so early in the season, I think that might be the wake-up call that's going to get Carver on the right track. I know Coach Coffey and his players, they're not panicking. They're disappointed. But Northeast of Macon, they, stood toe-to-toe. We've been bragging about the defense that Carver has. And, of course, that quarterback for Northeast of Macon found those receivers. And, of course, they were able to work it out and come into town and steal a victory.
DJ, let's talk about the other school on the other side of the river in Phoenix City. Compared to Carver, putting players in the NFL, Central is starting to become that team. You got Justin Ross playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. J.D. McKissick played for the Washington Commanders. Jeremiah Castile. I expect players like A.J. Harris, Tamarian Parker to be playing on Sundays. This Andrew Alford kid is absolutely phenomenal. 13 touchdowns. Central, they just demolished Enterprise on the road, 48-7. DJ, do you think this Central team can dethrone the four-time state champions Thompson and win a title for the first time since 2018?
Based on these first three games, man, they have played exceptionally well. Again, the points that they've been putting up, this quarterback that transferred over from Brookstone, man, he's the real deal. And again, for what I understand, the number one receiver in the state of Georgia and highly ranked in the nation is on that team as well. But, again, I expect Central to be really good. I played against them in high school, and that's when Jeremiah Castile was over there. That's when Eddie Lowe played for him, Billy Jackson, another former NFL player. Phoenix City has always been just a gold mine with regarding athletes. Of course, the late great Harvey Glantz, one of the all-time great athletes. We just went to his services and put him to rest. A couple of months ago. But Central High School, man, they don't lack talent. They don't lack athletes. They have all the best equipment. They have all the best support. The administration is behind them, a superior coaching staff with Coach Nix. So, I expect them to run the table. I mean, I don't see why or how they can't, because they've already showed this early in the season. They beat up on a couple of teams that were supposed to be pretty good, but they made it look really easy.
Yeah, they did. And DJ, I'm going to mention it one more time. My man Richard on game day said he was going to see an upset. Enterprise was going to pull it off. And then at halftime, I said, Richard, have you seen that Central score? It's 35-0 already. But that's neither here nor there. They are one of the top teams. And another top team, we'll just go ahead and stay on Somerville Road, is the Glenwood Gators. DJ, you were there for our first game day. You know about this program. Ryan Nelson. You definitely know his dad, Ron. We've had him on plenty of times. He's a Chattahoochee Valley Hall of Famer like yourself. Glenwood, undefeated. They've dominated everyone. They dominated Brookstone, dominated Pacelli, Fort Dale, and Bessemer. They're undefeated, 4-0, and they take on the team that won it all last year, Lee Scott. Hated rivalry. Do you think Glenwood, for the first time in 30 years, they're going to bring home that trophy?
Well, they certainly deserve it, man. They got some great folks over there at the helm. Tim Fanning, the athletic director, Dusty Perdue is a great coach over there that we know. But, of course, Ryan, he's a chip off the old block. I played and I was around. His dad was coaching back during my era, and Coach Nelson is outstanding. And so, you know what? The quarterback over there, obviously, when you have a great quarterback in high school, especially on that level, you know what? You know, one guy can be a difference maker. I know it's a team sport, but that quarterback over there, man, he's a dual threat, and he can make you miss. And you know what? When you got guys like that, man, he's gonna be hard to beat.
DJ, tell us about December 7th. I know I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward for the Sportsvisions Middle School and High School Football Awards luncheon at the St. Luke's Ministry Center. You always put on just a great show. You have WRBL and WTVM there to announce the winners, and really, it's just a great event. Just tell us about what we're expecting. I mean, not to tease any guest speakers. I mean, it's kind of early for that, but just this event, I saw that it was announced earlier today.
Yes, it was. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, we don't just honor the high school in the Bi-City area. We go outside, and it started with our television show because the reach of our show was out in the outskirts of, you know, Georgia and Alabama. So, you know, we worked up to about 27, 30 different teams. And again, that was phenomenal. And then at the end of the day, we added recently the middle schools to the equation. So realistically, over 100 players, both high school, middle school, and coaches, both high school and middle school, will be honored and celebrated on Thursday, December the 7th, 11:30 down at St. Luke. And, you know, it's just a great way to let folks know that, let these coaches and players know how much we appreciate them. And, of course, let them know, you know, amongst their peers, let them be honored and celebrated and walk across that stage and receive the awards. But the biggest treat is what's been developing in the last 6-7 years of these coaches, not just college coaches, the best in the country, the best in America. You know, the Nick Sabans and the Kirby Smarts coming down to spend time with our kids. Obviously, it's a hotbed of talent, and it's no secret that these coaches use this time to obviously, you know, just reconnect and engage. However, you know, these coaches, you know, you're talking Nick Saban, and we're talking just Nick and Kirby. They can do anything they want. They're the two highest paid guys in America. And you got, you know, corporations throwing tons of money at them. But you know what? Sportsvisions is able to bring them here for our kids and for our coaches. And you know what? I hang my hat on that. Dale hangs his hat on that. If we don't do anything else, you know, we've done something that has never been done and probably won't ever be done again. And we're just proud that we're keeping it going. This is year 16. We got another great crew of players, both middle school kids as well as high school kids and coaches. And we just got to try to make it, you know, one up every year.
Yeah, it's always blown me away. I was able to be a part of my first one back in 2021. Been a part of Sportsvisions since 2020, but, you know, because of COVID, we didn't have one that year, DJ. But now we've been going strong again, and it's been an awesome experience for myself. Richard, I know you enjoyed being there last year. Can't wait for it again. If all those corporate sponsors out there, you sponsor our live streams, you sponsor everything we do at Sportsvisions, this is your ultimate time. You get love on a radio show, you'll get love on everything that we do, our magazine, and then get involved with especially this awards luncheon. So contact DJ Jones. DJ, you can give him your contact information, or you can also DM me as well.
706-681-1136. That's 706-681-1136. I basically send out the save the dates to a lot of the community this week, and you know it'll be coming downhill because you know what, December the 7th will be here before you know it, and there's a lot of moving parts with putting something like this together. And my partner Dale Williams, man, I tell you, we had gotten so good at putting this together. He had his load, I had my load, but when he got sick 2.5 years ago with COVID, and that took him out of the equation with regards to coordinating this deal. But you know what? The good Lord doesn't give you any more than you can handle, Thrift. And I've been able to, by the grace of God and some great people in this community, standing in the gaps with myself as guys like you, Thrift, and of course Loretta Rose, and a wealth of volunteers who help us on that day of the ceremony. And of course, our sponsors, they make it happen. And St. Luke has been tremendous. So it's, it's old hat, but you know what? It's almost like a competition every year because I have to perform. You have to execute. There's no lack. You can't lose focus. You can't get upset, because if one thing doesn't work out, hey, you got to go ahead. And one thing is coming. That day, December the 7th, is coming downhill fast. So, you just brush off whatever you can't handle and handle what you can.
Exactly right. And it's funny that football season, we hate it, but it goes by so freaking fast, man. But the last couple of things, DJ, we are going to talk a little bit of the Falcons and the Bulldogs before we let you go. But I do want to talk about two schools in particular, mainly their coaches, and mainly how hard it is to lay a foundation. It takes time. One is Johnny Gardner. They're 1-3 this year. They did lose their starting quarterback against Harris County. Who knows? It could be probably had a different outcome that game. They could be 2-2 and 3-1 if they did have him. He's out, so they're going through some struggles right now. Hardaway, they've been taking their licks these first couple of weeks. They're 0-4. They've been getting dominated by teams that are really good. Last week they lost by 14 to Noonan. Pretty good school up there. So they are getting better each week. But Coach Ryan McKenzie of Hardaway, Coach Gardner of Shaw, it's going to take time. And I want you to tell these fan bases, you've seen it all. You've been around all these programs. It doesn't happen overnight. And these guys got to lay down their foundation first.
Well, what I want people to understand who don't know is that first and foremost, coaching high school football in Muskogee County on a high school level, it's an extremely challenging job because you don't have the resources or the talent that a lot of the schools around the city and state have. And again, it's just a flat out, that's the information that I'm not afraid to share. And of course, everybody knows it. The resources, it's a lot of shortcomings, but you know what? You have to have an incredible motivator. You have to have some talent. And certainly in Shaw's case with Coach Gardner, he's going to be a great coach. He's a young guy who has been surrounded by some tremendous talented coaches. And he's going to be just fine. He lost his quarterback. And, you could say that about any of the top teams in the state. If you lose your star quarterback, hell, that makes the whole season go sideways. You never know what's going to happen. But over at Hardaway, that's a challenge. But I think that, these guys have an opportunity. If these kids and parents stick with them, and I know that they have some young sophomores and freshmen that they have in the fold. The seniors, obviously you want to get the best out of your seniors with the leadership. But, it's going to take time. And realistically, you really have to be honest with yourself when you talk about, really how far a Hardaway or Shaw, or for that matter, any of the schools in Muskogee County can go. I mean, it's a blessing because, again, they don't have the resources that a lot of these schools out here that are competing. They don't have the money to pay the coaches. They don't have the money to afford all the equipment and the travel. And it's a lot of things that people just don't know. But my hat's off to the Muskogee County coaches. And again, hell, I played in Muskogee County for a great one in Wallace Davis, who didn't have a lot. But you know what? He turned out some of the greatest, not just football players, the greatest men that went on to become college football players. They went on to play in the pros. They went on to coaching in pros, become successful citizens in the community. And that's what these coaches do.
Right.
This football thing is, we get all excited about it, but, it builds character and it helps you understand how to deal with adversity. And as long as you can do that, you know what, that'll help you later in life.
Richard?
Well, first of all, gentlemen, I just want to say, and I've been observing, by the way, just great conversation between us three. And I'm really just proud to be a part of Sportsvisions because you said it on the show last Thursday. And this is kind of cool because it's really surreal because it's like we're having Sportsvisions on a Tuesday.
And that's the ultimate goal. And we're definitely going to have on DJ throughout the season all the time. And of course, you can listen to me and DJ Jones Monday and Thursday, 4 to 6 p.m., 92.1 Smooth R&B. Richard, I was trying to cue you in to throw a Georgia Bulldog question in there, but I guess you didn't know what I was trying to say. But that whatever you said right there, that works too. All right, Georgia, they're undefeated. You're going to be going to Athens this weekend. Looking forward to again, Sportsvisions on the road. We'll be in Auburn. We'll be in Athens, SC Championship. We're covering all things around college football, DJ. We were at SC Media Days. We know how the hype surrounding this program. They played 2 cupcakes. They dominated. Now they play South Carolina. What are you getting from your Georgia Bulldogs right now early in the season?
Well, of course, they went out and they've scored 90-some points, and they've only given up 10. And again, the defense is, done the doggone thing. And Carson Beck is proven to be the guy. Although nothing explosive, no explosive plays, not a lot of them anyway, because you know what? There's a strategy and there's a method to the madness. A lot of folks are upset because, you start slow in the first game, you start slow in the second game against a couple of teams that most people consider junior varsity when it comes to Power 5. But you know what? There's no need for, Kirby or for that matter, Bobo and the coaches to show, what's to come. They're going to get a test this weekend. And Spencer Ratliff, he scares me. That quarterback for the Gamecocks is the real deal. And if you don't know his past, you just Google him. He has been fantastic and had a whole lot of help. Last year was really, really good. But if they can keep him, I call it, keep him clean, keep him upright, and block for him up front, meaning his offensive lineman. You know what? It could be a long day. It could be a long day because he's accurate. He has a great deep ball, and he's mobile enough to to keep the plays, extend plays, and I just think that the first SEC game, like I said before with one of the teams, I mean, when you're on top, you're back-to-back national champions, you're number one in the nation, you got the bullseye as big as ever on your back, and the spotlight is right in your face, and people are going to come out throwing haymakers. And you know what? South Carolina is good enough and have enough talent that if they have throw the haymakers and connect, you know what? We could run into some issues.
DJ, let's talk about the Falcons. They get the win over the Carolina Panthers 24-10. Bryce Young started for Carolina. Little sluggish at first. Desmond Ridder didn't really get the passing game going until he hit Kyle Pitts. And then the Falcons were able to get into the end zone. Tyler Algier with 2 touchdowns. But really, it was the play of Jesse Bates. 2 interceptions and a forced fumble. And it was the defense that helped the Falcons get the win. And it was one of those wins where I was watching on the couch and I was thinking, I don't think they're going to blow this game because they have the key ingredients to hold on to that lead with the ground game and a stout defense.
You're absolutely right. You mentioned Bates, man. He was a godsend. And that was a wonderful. Now people understand why they gave him the bag. I mean, $75 million for 2 or 3, 4 years.
Absolutely.
This guy, he had the 3 of his turnovers, 2 interceptions, and a fumble recovery. Yeah, produced 17 points for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, again, our offense, we didn't, with a playing defense like that, you don't need an offense. But just think when, Dijon Robinson, and boy, did you see that grown man move? He did a parking lot move to score down in the red zone. But I mean, this guy, he slithers through there like a snake. He stops on a dime. I love him. He has good size. He's a threat in the passing game as well as the running game, and all those running backs that you mentioned before. And again, London and Pitts, it's just a matter of time before that offense starts clicking. But certainly the defense is got to keep playing hard. If the Atlanta Falcons can stay healthy, and by the way, my heart bleeds for Aaron Rodgers, and I got to mention that because again, this guy here, the whole season was propped up on his shoulders for New York, and in 4 plays it was over. It could be his career, but hey, that's the game of football, man. That's those are the challenges, those are the adverse situations that come up, and that's why I love the game so much. But again, Falcons, I think that, as well as anybody that knows me well, I love the Falcons. I don't give a damn if the Packers drafted me and gave me an opportunity to play in the National Football League and the Broncos, but I grew up loving everything in this state. The Atlanta Falcons, the Atlanta Braves, the Atlanta Hawks, Georgia Tech, Columbus State, Columbus Tech, you name it. I mean, I'm that guy. I'm a homer, and I'm proud of it.
Yeah, I am too. I think these Falcons, Ridder ever comes around, the quarterback, they're going to be something to deal with. And you look at the schedule, it's easy, DJ. They could easily get 10 or 11 wins, and that could win the division. You saw last year 8-9 with Tampa Bay did as well. All right, DJ, you're going to be calling a game. Pacelli taking on Stratford. I know you're excited about it. Any final thoughts when calling with Dave Plata this Friday on Viking Live? We've seen Corey Black. He's actually commenting saying, love y'all. We love you, Coach, everything you do. But that's a big one, DJ. Look forward to hearing the call with you and Dave.
Absolutely. Dwight Jones is one of my favorite coaches. I do a little speaking tour in this summer, and I go around, and for the last couple of years, Pacelli was on that list, man. And he's old school, man, but he keeps himself relevant with motivating these young guys. And I just look forward to getting in the booth with Dave. Dave and I were on the air in the same era. I didn't stay quite as long as Dave, but at the same time, you know what? I respect him. We actually did a big fundraiser for Twin Cedars last Thursday to kick off the college football season, kick off for a cause for Twin Cedars, and raising a lot of money for the and Elizabeth Shepherd home, home for wayward girls. And just a great you came out through, you and your lovely girlfriend, and of course my wife was there, and we just had a wonderful time. Great support. But I do want to say this before we go off the air, Thrift, because I made an announcement the other day with regards to another element that'll be added. We'll be adding to the awards circuit. Again, a lot of people, they might not understand how important marching bands, dance teams, and cheerleaders are to our game day experience as we go out and call these football games. All the emphasis is on football. Well, Sportsvisions will be adding another award ceremony to our repertoire, and we're going to have our inaugural Sportsvision marching band, dance team, and cheerleader awards luncheon in January. We're going to do it in the first quarter. We hadn't pinpointed the date just yet, but it'll be in the first quarter, maybe January, February. Certainly it'll be, but looking forward to that, man, because so many of these kids work hard. Those kids work just as hard as the football players, if not harder. And I just want to be able to, just to thank them and to honor them the way we do our football team.
Yep, and I cannot wait for it. And that's just one of many luncheons that we do. We got the female awards luncheon, we got the basketball awards luncheon, baseball's coming soon. Just a lot that happens with Sportsvisions. We give back for these kids. That's the main reason we do it. DJ, thank you so much for coming on, and make sure to listen to me and DJ this Thursday, previewing all the big time games. Got great guests on as always. And if you missed yesterday, we talked Auburn, we talked Alabama, we talked Georgia, we even talked Falcons. We always have fun on the show, don't we, D?
Absolutely. And guys, you guys are knocking it out of the park. I love what you guys are doing. And I just hope that the community appreciates you guys as much as I do.
Thank you, DJ.
Thank you, DJ.
That is DJ Jones of Sportsvisions. Thank you so much for him coming on. And it means a lot to have my mentor believe in what I'm doing, understand this live streaming thing. It's hard. And I be able to have someone like him to feedback off of, tell him what's going on, get good advice, because he's done it. He's been at the highest level. Everything he does is successful. I am just trying to add another element to something around this area. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I already got the Sportsvisions radio show that we talk all sports around the area. I don't need to, have another show to be able to do that. What I wanted was to give video production quality like ESPN. I enjoy calling games. I like doing play-by-play. I didn't know that was a calling of mine until I just happened upon it. And a lot of that had to do with calling games with DJ and Dell back in 2020. And I was like, you know what? There is not a lot of live streaming going on around this area, and I want to give them a top-notch broadcast. I learned what is a professional broadcast, how to do a professional broadcast calling a game under DJ and Dell with Sportsvisions, with their TV show. There is live streaming, but then there's professional broadcasts, and that's where I wanted to go. It takes some time. You got to have guys like Chris Gates, Toy Gar as our producers that believe in what we do, their equipment, obviously, and the scoreboards and everything else we put on their graphics takes it to a whole nother level, but I always give credit to DJ. All right, Richard, we won't spend too much time. It's already been 53 minutes. We'll touch the next 10 minutes, do some rapid fire with some college football and NFL. First, let's start with Alabama. We had on Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama Magazine, the premier magazine that keeps up with all things Alabama. I don't know anyone that knows the Alabama program better than Stephen. He goes to the practices. He knows Nick Saban. He knows people inside the program. It was a little worrisome, he said, but he thinks that Alabama still got a lot to play for. And let's not take away from how great Texas was. Quinn Ewers was phenomenal. That guy's got to be put in the Heisman race. A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, these guys were barn burners. Alabama's got a really good secondary. They made them look subpar. That has to do with how good Texas is. And in my opinion, the best play caller in the game so far right now has to be Steve Sarkisian. And you probably could throw Lincoln Riley in there too. I just haven't seen USC hasn't played anyone these first 3 weeks, excuse me. But that Steve Sarkisian game plan, the way he called the game was fantastic.
Sark came out aggressive. He wanted to establish a point. Texas proved that they can go toe-to-toe with Alabama. What I was watching was a game for the first time in the Nick Saban era where I saw a better team than Alabama. Texas pushed them around. Now, Alabama's going to be fine. They're going to make adjustments. I don't think it's a testament on Alabama if they've dropped off or not. It's just that Texas has caught up to the big boys in college football. I mean, they've always been a powerhouse, but they haven't really been a national championship powerhouse since the Mac Brown years in 2006. But I think that Texas is back. They could possibly go to the college football playoff. Now, Alabama, it could go one or two ways. They could get aggressive, get angry, start making adjustments, and they could run the table and win the rest of their games. Or they could lose some games that are games that, when you look at the schedule, Texas A&M, LSU comes to mind. They got a tough game against Kentucky. And then, of course, the Iron Bowl. That could be a possibility. I mean, highly unlikely. I think that Alabama's going to figure it out. But, Thrift, we could possibly see a Bama team. And this is not going to sit well with Bama fans.
No.
We could see a Bama team that wins single-digit wins this year. That's a possibility, but I know Bama fans won't want to hear that.
Oh, hot
Not
take.
a hot.
Listen, Bama fans, he's already saying it. 9-3 for you this year. First time since 2010 that you're going to go 9-3.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not. And here's the thing, Richard. This Alabama team obviously has got to find that intermediate passing game. Jalen Milroe is not Bryce Young. That 10 to 15-yard passing routes outside of big plays. The passing game was not elite and not what we've used to seeing under Bryce Young. Heck, even Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, Mike Jones. I would even throw in there when they won a national championship. A.J. McCarron. I'm throwing Blake Sims, even Jacob Coker in 2015. These guys could hit that. I don't think Jalen Milroe has that in his repertoire right now, but that doesn't say he can't get it. But obviously, Texas is no longer a punchline. Remember back in 2016 when they played Notre Dame on a Sunday night, the great Joe Tessitore said, "Texas is back, folks," and they went on to go 5-7 that year and fired Charlie Strong, and that's when they started the Tom Herman era that was not as successful either. I think obviously this Texas team is back. They will win the Big 12. They are a top 4 team, and I could easily see in them be a Big 12 team that's going to make the playoff this year, especially after seeing TCU make it last year. I actually think that this Texas team is even better and can win a national championship. Moving on from there, Auburn drives and flies all across the country for California. California Golden Bears in Berkeley. There were more Auburn fans there, it seemed like, than California fans. This is why Californians get left out during conference realignment because of stuff like that. But a big win for Hugh Freeze and his coaching staff. This is a young Auburn team that's got a lot of transfers on it, including Peyton Thorne. He did not look good. 2 interceptions, had a couple turnovers. Didn't like what I saw from him. Robbie Ashford was negated with his running ability. But even with all the mistakes, defensively, you only held them to 10 points. This California team the week before had 700 yards of offense, and you made enough plays to win. In a game like that, over the past several seasons, Auburn would lose. They didn't lose this time. And I think that is turning the corner from the Brian Harsin era. Winning that game against Cal doesn't mean Auburn's win the national championship. What it means is this Auburn team is going to compete, and they know how to finish games, unlike in the last few seasons.
Thrift, a win is a win. You flew all the way across the coast on the West Coast and took on a Cal team that, they're not a great team in the Pac-12. They haven't really been irrelevant since the Aaron Rodgers years in 2004. But still, Cal had a chance to win that game. Auburn's defense stepped up, and Auburn is 2-0. They play Samford this week, about to go 3-0. And then this is when the schedule gets tough, Thrift, at Texas A&M, and they are hosting Georgia on the Plains. We will see. I know that we've talked about Auburn possibly going 8-4, maybe even 9-3. It is possible in Hugh Freeze's first year, but, more recruits are coming. The best of Hugh Freeze, we have yet to see that because the future looks bright, and this is just trying to build some confidence and some momentum and getting wins like this, because the Auburn teams in the past, they don't win ball games like this.
No. Texas A&M loses to Miami on the road. I think there's more about Miami than A&M. A&M scored 33 points. I like what I'm seeing offensively from A&M. Giving up 48, that's concerning, considering the fact you got so many 5-stars on that all defensive line. A&M was supposed to be a contender this year. Not saying they won't be, but losing by 15 like this, and then you still got Auburn, Alabama coming up here in the next few weeks. That's tough, and that makes me think if they go 8-4 again, or anything less than 9-3 or 10-2, are they going to fire Jimbo Fisher? Miami on the other side, last year I think they were overhyped. Mario Cristobal comes in with all his success, winning back-to-back multiple Pac-12 championships at Oregon. He comes into Miami. They're expecting to win in year one. Doesn't happen like that. Van Dyke looked fabulous, 5 touchdowns. Miami, North Carolina, Florida State. Heck, I probably even throw Clemson in there. I know they did lose to Duke. Duke's another team. ACC's got a ton of teams. So does the Pac-12 and the AP top 25 right now. But those 3 teams, North Carolina, Florida State, and Miami, I expect all of them to win 10 games or more this year. Cristobal's finally getting that Miami blood filling in. Still a pretty atrocious turnout for the Miami fans. I'm hoping that changes here in the near future when you got someone like Cristobal who's trying to bring back the glory days of the Hurricanes. That was a big win, Richard. Some of the other games around the area, around college football, Washington upset in Wisconsin, Washington State. Again, Wisconsin, under first-year coach Luke Fickell, is ranked, I think, solely because of Luke Fickell's success at Cincinnati. He struggled with that loss. Wisconsin, it's going to take them some time. They still probably win 9-10 games this year. Notre Dame wins at NC State by 21. So schedule was very weak. USC blowing out Stanford 56-10. Any other games you really wanted to touch on in college football that's happened? Ole Miss, I think, had the best win aside from Texas of the weekend, going on the road to beat a Tulane team that went 12-2 last year, won a New Year's Six Bowl, winning pretty handily, 37-20. That was really impressive, Richard.
And also some of the teams that I'm not really all that impressed, Ohio State. They had 2 very closer wins to Indiana and Youngstown State. I cannot wait until that game in 2 weeks when Ohio State plays Notre Dame. We will find out if Chase McCord is the guy at Ohio State. Is he going to be another Ohio State quarterback like a JT Barrett, like a Braxton Miller, a CJ Stroud? Is he going to be that quarterback that Coach Ryan Day has the quarterback whisperer, or is Ohio State going to lose these games like to Notre Dame, Penn State? And they do have to play Michigan at the Big House. And I'm still not sold on USC as a college football playoff contender, and still I see them beat an elite offense. Like if that defense shuts down somebody, because I think the only way to beat USC is you're going to have to outscore them, because I'm not convinced of that USC has an elite defense.
Yeah, I'm not either, but I am convinced that Caleb Williams is one of the best quarterbacks in the area. Shout out to Coach Justin Purdue. He gave Levis a comment and saying, can't wait till Friday. Can't wait either. Coach Purdue, we're going to go all out for College Game Day. He's going to be on there picking games. Looking forward to having on Coach Purdue, my former basketball coach. And then as well, we're going to have Rex Castillo. It's going to be a great day. We're going all out on game day. Then we got the broadcast at 8. Should be a lot of fun at the Swamp. A little quick note on college football this week. There are no ranked matchups this weekend. Got to do better, guys. Got to do better. Probably the game of the week is between LSU, Mississippi State. Mississippi State's undefeated. LSU on the road. Another one, Kansas State at Missouri. Kansas State is ranked. Missouri's undefeated. They play at Missouri. I guess you could throw in there Washington and Michigan State, and we're going to talk about that before we get off air. Georgia Tech at Ole Miss. Ole Miss played Georgia Tech at Georgia Tech last year. Florida, Tennessee, but again, no ranked matchups. We'll talk about a lot of these tomorrow on Thursday on the Sportsvisions radio show, but Georgia playing South Carolina, I think is going to be a drubbing. South Carolina, a tough time blocking North Carolina. they're going to have an even tougher time blocking Michael Williams at Georgia this weekend. Georgia playing at home. Everybody's talking about the slow start. I think they're going to be up by 20, 30 points at halftime against that South Carolina team. Kansas State, Missouri is going to be a good one. Again, good gains, but not great. And then, another one, Wyoming. They upset Texas Tech first week of the season.
They
Texas Tech
did.
was ranked in the coaches poll. They weren't ranked in the AP. Wyoming is undefeated right now, and they're one of my favorites to be a non-Power 5 school to make it in a New Year's Six bowl. I like Coach Craig Bowles' team, former coach of North Dakota State, who won national championships there. They play Texas at home. If there's going to be a letdown, it's going to be the week after you beat Alabama handily. Do I think they're going to upset Texas? No. But I think it's going to be a lot closer, as Lee Corso says, than the experts thinks. That's another game I'm looking forward to. And then College Game Day is going to Colorado, taking on Colorado State. Obviously, the story of college football is Shedeur Sanders and Deion Sanders and what Colorado's doing. They shellacked Nebraska by 22 points. Shedeur Sanders is a favorite to win the Heisman already first 2 weeks of the season. Travis Hunter, another one, a favorite to make it to New York. I don't think Colorado's going to win the national championship, but they're ranked in the top 20 for the first time since 2016. They're talked about all over with college football, and I'm thinking they're even probably going to send Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit to the Colorado State-Colorado game, 10 o'clock kickoff, Richard. And you believe that? I wonder what games they are going to call, Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler. But anything you want to add on the slate this week?
Well, normally Tennessee, Florida would be a huge game. It's always that third Sunday in October or in September. And I was looking at this rivalry. Tennessee has only beaten them twice in the last 20 years. The last time Tennessee won at the Swamp, well, it was 2003. And Florida has dominated this rivalry. Tennessee is a touchdown favorite. And because that Florida did lose to Utah, a lot of people think that Florida has fallen off a little bit. Graham Mertz is not the quarterback. If you look at the Florida's team last year, they went 6-6. Anthony Richardson put on the Superman cape and bailed him out for some of those games. And so Billy Napier, he's on the hot seat. I mean, I like Coach Napier. I want to see him succeed at Florida. But I just don't think it's going to be an easy win for Tennessee because Joe Milton has got to prove himself. He can't just go and throw the fastball. He's going to make mistakes if he does that. Tennessee just got to play their game. And if they don't make any mistakes, they will get their first victory in the Swamp since 2003. But yeah, normally I look forward to Tennessee, Florida. This is a great game, but it's kind of lost some of its lackluster because of the play of Florida.
Yeah, well, in the early 2000s, I remember 2001, it was basically a semifinal game. Number 2 Florida taking on number 4 Tennessee. And since then, Philip Fulmer gets fired. Tennessee, it took them a long time to get back to relevancy. Last year was the first time they won 10 games since Philip Fulmer in 2007. Florida, same thing. You're seeing since Billy Napier took over and after Dan Mullen gets fired, that they've gone downhill. It should be a good game. Tennessee's favored by 6.5. I think they dominate, to be honest with you. I don't like this Florida team at all, but you're right. That's a game that used to get a lot of love. Game day would even be there, and now many people are not even talking about it. I do want to talk about one more thing before we get out of here. Actually, we'll mention, we talked a little bit about the Falcons. I guess we can throw your 49ers in there if you want to, Richard. Michigan State, everything that's happening with them. Mel Tucker is right now suspended without pay because of sexual assault and sexual harassment allegations made against him from Brenda Tracy, a woman that was brutally raped by 2 Oregon State players, a junior college player, and a high school player back in 1998. Nothing happened. No one got in trouble. And she has been an advocate, especially during that Baylor years. Remember everything that happened with Art Briles? She was one of the faces of that. And she goes around and talks to the young men and tells them about what no means and how to treat a woman, especially these college football programs. And she's come out saying that Mel Tucker harassed her. And now Mel Tucker, obviously he's denied it. We don't have all the facts, but it's a sad situation going on in Michigan State. If this does go through, Michigan State can fire him with cause and not have to pay him the buyout because he's getting paid $9.5 million. He signed that extension in 2021, $95 million 10-year deal, which I thought they rushed into that after only 2 seasons of him at the helm to pay him that much money to say he's basically Kirby Smart when he hasn't had Kirby Smart results. But this Michigan State's had a problem with stuff like this in the past. We'll go back to uh, the trainer
Larry Larry Nasser.
Larry Nasser. I couldn't think of his name. Larry Nasser and everything that happened with him. Obviously, Mark D'Antonio, Michigan State basketball. Tom Izzo. Um, it it's a sad situation. I mean, Mark D'Antonio was basically forced out. D'Antonio was forced out because of allegations made against his program, and now you're seeing something similar happen with Mel Tucker. They got to get right there at Michigan State, but they are undefeated, and this game would have more firepower to it if we went. And it's still obviously story-wise going to have stuff to it because Washington, number 8, goes on the road to take on Michigan State. But man, that's a Washington 16-point favorite, by the way. But any thoughts on what's going on there?
Well, I hope these allegations are not true. I'm a huge fan of Mel Tucker's. I really was a fan of him when he was the interim coach when Bobby Petrino got fired. He coached for the Falcons in the Georgia and also Colorado, and he had a great season with Michigan State. They won 11 games. Peyton Thorne was their quarterback, and they gave him that big contract. And the athletics director and just the boosters, they're just trying to find a reason to get rid of him. They want to try to get rid of him with cause, so they don't have to have that buyout. That's just my opinion, but I hope that these allegations are not true.
Yeah, I hope so too. All right, last thing before we get out of here, real quick, Richard. Falcons big win. I'm not a believer in Ritter. I think Algiers and Robinson, that tandem, they could have 2,000-yard rushers this year in the Falcons. Drake London, 0 receptions. Cal Pitts didn't get looked at that much. If you put Jimmy Garoppolo, Lamar Jackson, heck, I'd even take a 40, 50-year-old Tom Brady, anybody other than Ritter in this offense, I'd say the Falcons, aside from the Eagles and Cowboys, are one of the favorites in the NFC South and the NFC to maybe make a deep playoff run. The defense is really good. It's the quarterback. And obviously Arthur Smith thinks that I'm just going to have him not make mistakes. He's going to be checked down Ritter. But a big win. They got an easy schedule. They take the Packers on this week. Packers got a big win with Jordan Love against the Bears this past week. But Falcons, good win. Your 49ers, I think, and that's another thing. I said Cowboys and Eagles, but your 49ers, man, Brock Purdy, fabulous. Christian McCaffrey, obviously still one of the top running backs. And then you got a myriad of weapons, a defense elite. I like this 49er team a lot. But we had a couple statement games, 49ers and Cowboys, showing that, hey, they're probably going to be teams that you may see in the NFC Championship game this year.
And look, these two teams will play on October the 8th on Sunday Night Football. I cannot wait for this game. Look, the Cowboys are great, but you also got to factor in they were playing the Giants. And that's why, they just beat up on the Giants. And it's really not a testament to how great. I still think the Cowboys are a great team, but the 49ers, what can you say? They're playing on another level because Brock Purdy, I mean, he's got the aggressive play calling by Kyle Shanahan. He's got Christian McCaffrey. He's got Brandon Ayuk, who's their number 2 receiver. And Nick Bosa didn't really have a game. It was Drake Jackson that had 3 sacks. I believe the 49ers are just going to continue rolling. I mean, you saw the Seahawks lose to the Rams without Cooper Kupp. The NFC is going to be slightly down this year because I just don't think the Eagles are as good as they were last year. Really, in my opinion, the 2 best teams in the NFC are the 49ers and the Cowboys, and they will square off Sunday night on October the 8th.
That's going to be a big one. Looking forward to it. But still a lot of football to be played. Joe Burrow looked atrocious. Remember, he didn't play in the preseason. He was hurt. Let's not freak out about that. But Cleveland, I like their defense. I like Deshaun Watson. He's looked like he's back to trying to be this Deshaun Watson of old. Russell Wilson, I don't think it's only a matter of time for Jared Stidham to start the quarterback there for the Denver Broncos. I think his time is done. Let Russ cook. That saying is gone. The New England Patriots, they look decent against the Eagles. They're going to be competitive. But I think the biggest storyline, obviously, and the last thing we talk about, Aaron Rodgers getting hurt on the first possession of the game for the Jets, pulling his Achilles heel, tearing it out for the season. Just crazy. Didn't even last a half. And now you got to think, it's 39. Are you going to go through all the process of come back? Are you going to retire? And then they got a big win against the the Bills, because of their defense. Josh Allen looked terrible. 4 turnovers that game. They did beat him last year in something similar with this. But I just don't know if Zach Wilson is the answer. Now you're hearing Tom Brady go out and find a quarterback, sign Tommy B. I don't know what they're going to do, because they put all their eggs in that Aaron Rodgers basket. And I like this roster and how much talent's on it, but huge loss for the Jets.
Yes, and I'm hurting for those Jets fans. I mean, this is absolutely demoralizing. But yeah, all I've heard this morning on Sports Talk Radio, you're talking try to get Tom Brady out of retirement, Matt Ryan out of the booth at CBS. I've heard Carson Wentz, I've heard Nick Foles, I've heard Cam Newton, and just a couple of hours ago before we went on the air, I even heard Colin Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick.
Yes,
his camp, this, Richard?
His camp has reached out to the Jets. That's the latest report. Is actually, I don't know if Adam Schefter reported it, but somebody has reported that Colin Kaepernick is still working out and he is ready to go.
Well, we'll see if that's what's going to happen. They're probably just going to say it with Zach Wilson. But thank y'all again for everybody tuning in. Share the video. Like our new Facebook page. We will be live. I know we had some comments about doing some JV games. We love to. Our schedule is so busy. We're going to try to implement some JV games for sure. But we are going to definitely hit middle school. It's coming up here. We softball. We're going to be trying to hit that as a playoff start. And then, of course, we got high school football this week. Spencer taking on Kendrick. That's a big game. Looking forward to it. I think Spencer's going to get back on the winning track and dominate that one, but looking forward to calling the game. Joe Kegler and his staff trying to put back those 2 losses against Westover and Carver in the rearview mirror. Had a bye week, and now they're ready to get back on the right track. That's going to be at 7 p.m. on Thursday as part of our high school football showcase. And then on Friday, got high school game day. And then we got Lee Scott taking on Glenwood, 8 p.m. All games are going to be on our YouTube channel, and we'll also share them on our Facebook page. Richard, thank you so much for all your producing that you do. Thank you, everybody that's tuned in, and we'll see you Thursday night, live from Motor Spencer Stadium. Spencer taking on Kendrick.
Good night, everybody.